Kia ora koutou katoa, e te rangatira mā, tēnā koutou katoa, nā mihi mahana kia koutou. No mai haere mai, piki mai, kaki mau. Kia ora everyone, and very warm welcome to our council meeting this afternoon. Welcome to our community who has joined us online, and a big welcome to our staff. It is my great pleasure now to welcome our local St Matthew's Cathedral Reverend, David Van Overend, to come forward and start us with a karakia today. Kia ora, and very warm welcome to you, David. It's always lovely to have you in the chamber. And I was very proud to attend with Councillor Nixon and Councillor Watkins on Sunday the celebration of our parish of St Matthew's, which was 130 years old. Thank you for the beautiful service, bringing the community together and standing loud and proud after 130 years. So very exciting to be there with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Sandra. I'm delighted to be back with you again before this term of council ends. I didn't think I'd have this opportunity. So it's great to be here with you, and thank you for your support. And I hope that my bishop was watching this live stream when it was referred as a cathedral. Given I didn't think I'd be back with you, I've done my farewell. So I thought I would just enter into the spirit of spring and then offer a blessing as you meet. So these two prayers are written by a journalist, a cartoonist, and a prayer writer, Michael Lunick, an Australian who died this year, and they're quite special. He says, "Dear God, we celebrate spring's returning and the rejuvenation of the natural world. Let us be moved by this vast and gentle insistence that goodness shall return, that warmth and life shall succeed, and help us to understand our place within this miracle. Let us see that as a bird now builds its nest, bravely with bits and pieces, so we must build human faith. It is our simple duty. It is the highest art. It is our natural and vital role within the miracle of spring, the creation of faith." And a blessing for all of us, but especially those who are not returning to the council chamber after elections. God, give us rain when we expect sun. Give us music when we expect trouble. Give us tears when we expect breakfast. Give us dreams when we expect a storm. Give us a stray dog when we expect congratulations. God, play with us. Turn us sideways and around. Amen.
Thank you for that beautiful karakia, Reverend David. We really appreciate that, and it's absolutely meaningful right at the moment. So thank you very much. Lovely to see you again. We have leave of absence previously granted to Councillor Jessup, and I have a mover and a seconder. Any further leave of absence? Thank you, Councillor Fowler.
Friday the 21st of September.
Thank you. No further leave of absence. Happy to move from the chair. Seconded by Councillor Kerr. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any against? Thank you. That is carried. Item 4, we have confirmation of minutes. I'll have a mover and a seconder for the 3 lots of minutes. Minutes of the council meeting held on Tuesday, the 8th of July, 2025. Minutes of the council meeting held on Thursday, the 31st of July, 2025. And minutes of the council meeting held on the 28th of August, 2025. I have a mover and a seconder, Councillor Watkins, second and Councillor Dixon. All those in favour, please say aye. 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 Any against? Thank you. That is carried. Before we move on to our adoption of the Waste Management and Minimisation Bylaw, I just want to massive shout out to the incredible win of Hastings winning the best event for food in New Zealand for a meatball festival. So here's a big cheer To all our staff who work tirelessly, to our community who came up with the idea, to our people who started Meatballs in Hastings, and to our visitors, 5,000 visitors who came to enjoy, to our famous chefs that took part. This is next level amazing, and we're incredibly proud of our team who's helped bring this to. And I'm just taking any applications right now. You have to be in really quick because there's so many people looking to sponsor the Meatball Festival. So to our community out there, please give me a call. This is a once opportunity because there are so many people who want to sponsor this amazing event and have their name up alongside New Zealand's top event of Aotearoa New Zealand for food. Thank you.
If I could just add, Your Worship, through you, and good afternoon, councillors. It was fantastic to take out the award for Best Food Event, but this is the second year in a row that Hastings has taken out that award, having won it in 2024 for Taste Hastings. I think we're starting to get a little bit of feedback like we do at the local government awards. Can you stop entering? But it's fantastic for Meatballs, but also the fact that it's 2 years in a row now. So very proud.
Well, thank you very much, Nigel. Now, if I could invite Angela, this is the adoption of the Waste Management and Minimisation Bylaw for 2025 on page 7 of your agenda item.
Sorry. But I'll just run through some brief notes and give a verbal overview of the report. The Waste Minimisation Act requires councils to have a waste bylaw that is consistent with their waste management and minimisation plan. The current waste bylaw was adopted as part of the consolidated bylaw in 2015 and has been effective in communicating what waste is, the correct disposal processes, and how to reduce some of the negative effects. However, the current bylaw has had limited enforceable powers. The new bylaw has been developed to support the implementation of the new Joint Waste Management and Minimisation Plan. Consultation was undertaken between the 19th of May and the 22nd of June. 15 submissions were received, and the District Planning and Bylaw Subcommittee considered all of the submissions at its meeting on the 13th of August. And based on the submissions, the committee recommended an amendment to section 12.2 as detailed in paragraph 4.7. The report concludes with a number of recommendations to adopt the new bylaw, including the change to that section 12.2. The implementation of the bylaw will support the current collaboration and education approach undertaken by the waste team. And I'm happy to take any questions that anybody may have.
Wonderful, thank you. Councillors that have been involved with this waste management, who was that? Oh, thank you, Councillor Apatu. Do you want to speak to this paper?
I wasn't so intimately involved with the bylaw, but I'm certainly with the waste minimisation plan, so it appears that the bylaw is consistent with that, so I'm happy to move it. I don't have any queries, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Apatu. Councillor Nixon?
Yeah, I'm happy to second it. I am on the committee. But
Oh, great. Thank you, Councillor Nixon. Right, opened up questions now or comments. Councillor Hannah Apatu.
Thank you.
Sorry. Hannah Apatu. Hannah Montefano-Hendry.
I'll take it. Thank you, through Your Worship. I just wanted to support 4.7 and 12.2, and I think it would be remiss of me if I didn't reaffirm the importance of waste in council and private collaborations and what impact this has on the community. Silt and slash, rubbish and recycling, be it a natural disaster or the day-to-day generation of or sustainability practices in waste and how we deal with it will always be a core issue and an opportunity for a strategic service. We need community and contracts and a solid relationship. So I believe the rewording in 4.7 or 12.2b does help this. And I just wanted to thank the waste team for their work and for our commercial contractors that are out there. Thank them too for the massive work they did from going back from COVID to the floods. So they've done a huge amount of work. And then 4.6, I just wanted to put a comment on, if I may, Your Worship, just that I do support that we should have bylaws consistent, but I don't want us to forget that bylaws are specifically designed to address local communities and their needs. They are unique and to be tailored to a local area. So I don't want it to be a blanket that we do something just so that it's consistent and easy. It has to be for our community. Thank you.
Well said, thank you, Councillor Montepetro Hendry, very cool. Any further comments or questions? No? I have a mover and a seconder. I'm going to put those recommendations. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any against? Thank you, that is carried. Thank you for your enormous work. Thank you, Ange, and your team. Really appreciate this work. I know it's been a journey, but great result. Thank you. Item number 6 is the Frimley Pool Complex update. Welcome to Tom and Anna. So you're bringing forward a presentation? Okay, thank you. This is the next stage of the journey with the Frimley Pool Complex, and after seeking our community to bring forward any ideas for future use of the Frimley pools. So thank you for your paper today, and if you would take us through your slides. Thank you, Tom.
Kia ora, councillors. So just a quick summary to start with. So this is a report that follows the paper that was presented back in March 25, recommending demolition of the Frimley pools. At the time, council resolved not to proceed with demolition and directed the officers to continue to investigate potential future use of the pools. To explore the alternative options, we proceeded with a registration of interest process. The process, we received one formal submission and some informal interest as well. The process ended up in the formal interest not proceeding to the request for proposal stage, with the interested parties all opting not to progress after that period. Consequently, we are in a position where we have no formal interest in use of the site. Anna's now going to take you through some of the details of that ROI process.
Good afternoon and thank you. So as Tom indicated, council decision in March was not to proceed with decommissioning of Frimley pools, but to explore potential options for the future use of the pools complex site. Council used an ROI process and invited recreation and sporting groups who might have an interest in the site to come forward and present that interest to us. Those repurposing options could have involved full or partial demolition or the creation of a purpose-built facility. The options were open. We also intimated that expressions of interest could come from a standalone entity or a group who had an interest in the site. The expectation with any proposal put forward was that that group or organisation would have the funds to implement their proposal, but council did indicate that it would be willing to support funding applications where there was an alignment and the right proposal in place. We elected to keep the process as simple as possible, with the intention that groups spend a limited amount of time and resources to put in a registration of interest. So we developed 7 criteria which were relatively easy for us to assess. And just to give you a bit of a highlight, they were involved alignment with the reserve classification, organisational capacity and a strategic fit with the reserve management plan for Frimley. The intention was that groups wouldn't need to spend a huge amount of time and resource commitment at the ROI stage. That would come through the RFP, where they would then have to put a more detailed proposal to us and then spend greater amounts of funding as part of that proposal. We went really wide with the promotion of this opportunity. We pulled from our local and national database that had been developed through previous work Council had done and from Sport NZ. And so the types of organisations that we approached with this opportunity were very, very broad. They included school sport organisations, Halberg, Paralympics, Special Olympics, archery, artistic swimming, weightlifting, squash, and a detailed information package was compiled which included an inventory of the facility. So we received, at the close of that process, we only received one formal submission, which was from YMCA. The particular proposal involved reopening and upgrading the former Frimley Pool site into a year-round outdoor and rec centre, including a new purpose-built climbing wall and use of some of the pools for kayaking, raft building and team building activities. As part of their proposal, they identified the need for only one pool, with the removal of plant equipment, as the pool didn't need to be regularly treated, it just needed to be shock dosed. That particular proposal we received would have met the reserve recreation classification status for Frimley. They would have required council assistance in removing infrastructure that wasn't needed for their proposal, but after further due diligence, including an additional site visit and a board meeting, the YMCA decided not to proceed to that next RFP stage and withdrew from the ROI process. They advised that the scale of work was simply too much and uneconomic, and that they, to actually realistically consider the use of that site, there would have been significant upgrades needed, including to infrastructure, and they would have needed the support of council. And they instead have expressed a willingness to collaborate with other parties should further interests emerge. At the close of the ROI period, there was some informal expressions which came forward. Officers were very flexible with those couple of parties to explore those potential proposals, but they have ultimately decided not to submit a formal ROI or continue engagement with us at this time. And so currently there is consequently no interest in the Frimley Pools site. But we just thought it would be useful to cover off some of the feedback that we received through that process. So some of the comments were that there's limited market interest, specifically with regards to aquatic facilities. In terms of specialist turf maintenance, they've come back and said it sort of requires millimetre precision, and given the volume and level of fill required, there's concerns about achieving that accurately, and the risk involved is considered too high to proceed. In this environment, there is simply not the funding available to build new purpose-built sport and rec facilities. And then in the final example, where there was some informal interest, it involved a scenario of a residentially zoned site and land sale, followed by facility relocation, and that the land value doesn't support that and doesn't make it financially viable. So that's where we have currently arrived to through that process.
So just moving on from that, and the repurposing of the facility, why we're recommending to demolish the pool infrastructure and the grandstand is we think the buildings still hold value. They are recently reappointed, had a lot of work within the last 10 years to do with earthquake strengthening and so on. So they're in good condition. It's a good location, next to Parade Shops, located in the park. I think if we had that blank canvas without the pools and the grandstand infrastructure there, we think it may be another, more appealing proposition if we were to run another ROI process after the demolition has taken place. So cost of demolition, just a summary here. Indications from quotes that have been received is the demolition cost will roughly cost from $120,000 upwards. The prices don't include the removal of any plant from the existing buildings. Estimates have been given for around $60,000 for that. It does include removal of the known asbestos, but obviously there's old infrastructure. There's always a potential for some unknown asbestos, and those costs have obviously not been covered. To regrass the space, we're looking at $20,000, and then an ongoing cost following that to maintain the space of $1,700 per annum. So within the budget for the next 2 years, that roughly adds up to $300,000. So we'll be needing to utilise the operational budget that would have been there to run Frimley Pools for the next 2 years, so across 25 and 26. Within this current financial year, there's $191,000, and in the next year, there's just under $195,000. So that should be enough to cover the project. Okay, and then that's for you, Your Worship. Take questions.
Great, thanks very much, Tom. Thanks, Anna. Now move on to questions first, councillors, starting with Councillor Watkins.
Through you, Worship. Tom, just in relation to the grandstand, my understanding is there's no structural liabilities, it's in good order, probably very little ever has to be spent in terms of maintenance, is that correct?
I might defer to Craig on this, but I don't think we have recent condition assessment on the grandstand. It'd probably be prudent to proceed with a condition assessment if we were to retain it.
Through you, Your Worship, I'm not over any recent condition assessment. You would expect, though, it being concrete, there will be a time where that concrete will degrade and will need to be dealt to, but I'm not aware of any issues on that, but I can follow up with the team and get back to you if there was.
Take that as an action, Councillor Watkins. Understanding. Yes. Thank you. Councillor Nixon.
Thank you, Your Worship. It's a follow-on from Councillor Watkins' question. How much would be saved if we didn't demolish the grandstand and effectively the wall that's behind it? That's my first question.
Through you, Your Worship. So the demolition of the grandstand is part of the $120,000 cost. I haven't got the itemised number with me at the moment. There is $50,000 to reinstate fencing, so there may be some saving in obviously having to reinstate fence for the residents that live in the properties behind the grandstand.
I'll just make a comment before I move on to my next question. It seems a bit strange that we're knocking the grandstand down, which is effectively a wall, and then spending $50,000 to build a new fence. I just wonder why we didn't consider leaving the grandstand there, or the wall behind it, simply as a logical thing to do. The next question, you can answer that one in a minute. The next question is, you talk about the value of plant removal. What is the value of that plant? Have we removed it? And are we sure, because that's all got an additional cost, I think you, 20 or 30,000, 50,000, wasn't it? So I'm just wondering, are we sure that it has real value to us, or is this whatever I hope? Because it's going to cost us money to get to move it.
Could you just repeat the question, Councillor Nixon?
The question is all about the plant. We say, excuse me, it has value. I'm questioning
which plant are we talking about?
The plant, presumably the plant.
Thank you. Okay, Tom will answer that.
Sorry.
So yeah, just to make sure I've got the question right, it's is the value of the plant worth the
Yes.
removal and retention of the plant?
Thanks.
Yes, it is. At $60,000, that covers roughly 2 of the pumps that we've got in there. There's filters that could potentially be reutilised by Three Waters. There has been some discussion around that. It will save us money in the plant, you know, in the hundreds of thousands of dollars by.
And we can use it.
Yeah, absolutely.
The second question is the buildings. We leave the buildings there, but does that not risk that we then have to knock them down as well? So it's a sort of hidden cost, potentially.
Yeah. So we think that the buildings have still got potential value for a new incumbent, and obviously it'd be a lot of money to rebuild them somewhere else. So if somebody is looking for a building and we can lease it to them, then obviously that will save council money. If there is no use for them long term, then that's something we would have to come back to council with.
Through you, Your Worship. So what process are we going through to confirm that leaving the buildings there have a value and that we're just not deferring some future demolition cost?
So your reason of recommending that we leave the buildings there, you said in the outset that they've been recently strengthened, that they do have value.
Yep.
Could you just repeat that for Councillor
Yes,
Laxton?
absolutely. So the buildings have been within the last 10 years have had earthquake strengthening works. They, you know, it's a decent sized space, as well appointed changing rooms. Within our sport and recreational facilities review, it does speak to retaining what we've got and making sure that we can repurpose facilities for the future. So it is in line with the kind of strategic work that we've done to date.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Councillor Harvey.
Yes, thank you. You referred to the use of 2 years of operational budget that could be used for the decommissioning. I don't see the figures in this report, but it was in the last one to the cost of just furloughing it. From memory, it was roughly $17,000 or something at the last meeting, but it doesn't seem to be carried forward to this meeting.
One moment.
Might have to come back on that, but through you, Your Worship, they were relatively minimal costs to leave a facility there being unused, but this becomes the judgment. You know, we've been through this process. The costs are clearly in demolishing the pool, leaving the facilities that have some value there, where we believe that there will be potential interest in the community around that space. So this becomes, I guess, the fundamental judgment for council around not incurring costs of demolishing the pool, avoiding costs in the short term, but delaying costs into the future.
So you've asked a direct cost, and we'll get the answer to you on that direct
I
cost.
just want to give some context
Yes.
to that. In the last meeting, it was something that I did raise, and it was one of
Okay.
the key decisions to
Right, we've
why
got 2 questions
I
to
voted
come
for
back
it to
with.
being furloughed
Okay.
rather than it being fully decommissioned.
So, yes, and I'll follow up with those 2 questions and come back to you. Taking a further question, Councillor Michael Fowler.
Yep, thank you, and through your worship. So if the demolition goes ahead, there will be more chance of that space being potentially used with another ROI that could potentially go out of council's sites. Yep.
Thank you. Councillor Corbyn.
Thank you, Your Worship. There's mention here of a aquatic pools review and an imbalance of the facilities in Hawke's Bay, and the leisure pools being in short supply. Is there any strategy to develop leisure pools, and what role would Frimley play in that?
Thank you, Tom.
Through you, Your Worship. Yeah, so obviously the development of play, this is the imbalance of exercise, competition pools versus facilities that are used for play. So essentially within this proposition. Frimley Pools wouldn't, because we're proposing that it's not a pool anymore. The development of play is part, we're just entering a regional aquatic strategy, and we're hoping to get direction from that, which we presented to council about what should be the right facility mix moving forward, and how we should develop our facilities.
So Frimley could play a role in that going forward. And the assets that are there could be important to a future strategy.
Is there questions that were answered in the last paper about use of pools? I'll refer you back to the last item. I think we'll just bring that item up, Mr. Cameron, because you've got that usage of pools in the last paper, which is going to be part of a future strategy, but actually we've identified how many users are at Frimley Pool now, which is what you're talking about, Councillor Corbyn, aren't you? How many users, people using the pool?
I understand the current situation. Frimley Pool isn't the type of pool that people want these days. People aren't using it, etc. But there's also a strategy to develop leisure pools to correct the balance. And my question is whether Frimley, repurposed, could be part of that.
Who would like to answer that? Ms. Bex.
I think through you, Your Worship, Tom, you need to be really clear about what the regional aquatic assessment showed.
Yes, so it shows that we have an over-provision of pools, so there's too much pool space per capita in our region. Okay, so we're overfunding pools, essentially. So while we have a network of pools which is still over-provision, and they're not meeting the demand, it wouldn't be prudent, in my opinion, to continue to invest in an asset which is at end of life and not meeting those service levels.
Thank you. Councillor Kerr.
Your Worship, I'd like to move the recommendations as listed.
Is there any further questions? Thank you. And I've got answers to 2 questions to come back, and I'll come back to you, Councillor Kerr. The one question was
The
grandstanding costs.
Councillor Carvey's question.
Yeah, apologies for the removal of that from this paper. You're correct with the number. It's $17,000 a year to essentially mothball the facility.
And have we got the answers to Councillor Nixon's question about the grandstand? It's following it up now. So I need to come back to you, because that is, you need to understand exactly what that means in the context of debate.
Your Worship, to assist, I'm happy to tweak the recommendations and put a brackets round and the grandstand if necessary. Because I wouldn't
we're not too far away of getting an answer here, so
I wouldn't like this held up again.
No, I'm not holding the paper up.
Thank you.
Mr. Thur is just speaking to his officers about the grandstand, and we'll get that answer before we move into debate. All right, well, I'll take the debate now, moving on to the recommendations, and I'll come back to you on the answer on the grandstand. So I have a mover, Councillor Kerr, and seconder, Councillor Fowler. Thank you. Would you like to speak first to the motion?
Yes, Your Worship. Many years ago as a child, this was an exciting place to go and swim at. But our community haven't been using this pool for quite some time in a manner that warrants the investment that's needed. Quite simply, this pool has reached the end of its life. Assets do have a lifetime, and I don't think it's fair or safe to keep investing ratepayers' money in an asset that has not been used. Therefore, I recommend the demolition as proposed, and the surface is grassed and available to the community
That's what she does
through
all the time.
a
We're not proposing to keep the pool open and operating.
sorry, I just meant not demolished. The pool retained as opposed to demolished.
Great, thank you. Thank you, councillor Kerr. Councillor Fowler.
Your Worship, I'm in favour of the recommendations for demolition. It may seem economy-wise to just keep it ticking over with operating costs, but for how long will that continue on for? And demolition costs may I would say go up. If you did present or future value calculations, I'm sure the ongoing operational costs, if we mothball it for 3, 5, 6, whatever years, will end up actually costing the ratepayer more money. We've learned that if it is demolished, that there will be potentially another use of it if we go out for RI. So I believe that this is the best course of action, even though it may seem to mothball it and keep going operational costs.
Councillor Fowler. Councillor Watkins.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. In principle, I support the recommendation, but in my view, the grandstand is an asset that could be used for any future use of that green space. You're going to keep the admin buildings for possible use. To have a green space and have a grandstand makes logical sense. We keep the grandstand, we save on demolition costs, we save on fencing costs, and it's an amenity that has, I would say, almost zero maintenance cost, and it would be an asset to anyone wanting to use that land as a community purpose. So support in principle, but don't support demolishing the grandstand.
Okay, thank you. Well, then we'd make amendments to the recommendation, but I just need to get the answers on the grandstand for you. Thank you. I'm taking further speakers. The grandstand we're looking like we may set aside if there's interest in that, but let's get the answers that you require. Councillor Nixon.
Yeah, thanks, Your Honour. I originally voted against closing the pool, and I accepted a week or so ago that was probably a poor decision, and I accepted the patronage is not there to justify keeping it open. But I still have problems with the demolition. I just wonder if this is the right time to do it. We've been told or reminded 17,000 to simply keep it going, which is, in the scheme of things, not that much money. We're going to put a $50,000 fence up after we've paid to demolish the concrete fence that's part of the grandstand. And I feel the recommendation is just not adequate. And I haven't got a quick improvement. Maybe Councillor Kerr can come up with something to effectively make a more sensible decision, because I just can't see the point in paying money. It could cost us $50,000 based on the cost of demolition to get rid of the grandstand, and then we pay another $50,000 to put a fence up and to replace it. I think we've got it all wrong, and we should reconsider the whole decision.
Thank you, Councillor Nixon. So you're voting against the recommendations. Thank you. Councillor Nixon. Councillor Dixon.
Oh, you won't have that problem shortly, Your Worship. Look, thank you, Tom and Anna, for all the effort you put in behind this and going through and finding what the local community want to use it or not. I understood all the reasons why you wanted it demolished. However, reading through the papers, for approximately 16 or 17,000 per annum, it could be mothballed and it could be repurposed when the council can afford it in 5 years' time. Hastings is drastically short of affordable outdoor pool space for families to use. It is not the Regional Aquatic Centre. That's not a pool that's affordable. Splash Planet is not affordable. Havelock North is 8 kilometres away. Flaxmere is covered. and so is Clive. So my preferred option would be option 5.2. I may be a lone voice, but at least I've been consistent right through this effort. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dixon. Could you just remind us, please, Tom, what is the cost to keep the pool open? If
Not open.
so not keep the pool not have any demolition. 17,000. Okay, so 17,000 over how many years? Thank you. You understand that. Great. Thank you, Councillor Butto.
Thank you, Your Worship. Look, I think we've made the right decision in closing the pool. It was unsustainable to keep going. However, I do actually, funnily enough, agree with Councillor Dixon that this is not the right time to be demoing it.
So you're happy to pay the holding costs to keep the pool there? Thank you. Councillor Teo Skipworth.
Thank you, Worship. I'm on the same lines of Councillor Dixon and Butto. We may be over-allocated in terms of pools, but we're under-allocated in terms of leisure. You can't drag your family to the Hastings Sports Park and have a day there. You can barely do that at the Flaxmere pools because a lot of the... excuse me, Tanya, I'm talking, please. Thank you. You can't do that at the Flaxmere pools. Well, you kind of can, but you can't. But most of the time that pool's booked out. We have the Havelock pools, and what the paper failed to mention was a comparison that it cost the ratepayer to have a person subsidised to use the Frimley pool. It didn't look at the comparisons for other pools. So what the paper looks like is that we're only been subsidising the Frimley pool users. The same happens at Havelock pools as well as the Flaxmere pools. So I'm not in favour, but in favour of what Councillor Dixon said. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll take one more speaker and then I'm going to put the motion. I haven't received an amendment. I haven't received any changes to, so you're either speaking to or against the motion.
Thank you. I'm also speaking against the motion based on being consistent at the last meeting, where I was certainly in favour of it being furloughed. Since then, I've spoken to someone that is well respected within swimming circles. I asked him specifically the question around the pool and its future, and it was a sad day if that pool was going to be covered in and could see opportunities for it in the future. So based on that, the limited amount of money that's required is still the same operational money that we're actually using, regardless of whether it is to completely fill it in or to furlough it, and that's why I'm in favour of the latter option. Thank you.
Thank you, councillors. I will remind you that you asked this paper to be brought back before the end of the triennium to address a matter that was significantly important to our community. I need to remind you, as your duty as governors, to address this paper in a true and accurate record. Now, we have recommendations. No, I won't take a point of order. Thank you, councillor.
There was information missing from the report, which I have just asked, which was around the cost of furloughing. To me, that is the two options, and that was missing from the paper.
Thank you. We'll receive that information. We're still waiting for some information on whether or not the grandstand should be, has the impact of, you know, Councillor Watkins, you talk about the grandstand and excluding that from the demolition. I mean, this is entirely up to you if you want to move amendment or alter or an additional recommendation. You need to be all focused on this, folks, because this has come back many, many times to this council, and you need to have a very clear direction with very, very sound reasoning and cost to the ratepayers to either keep this pool open or to close it down and decommission it. Thank you. Right, you've had one voice, Councillor Teo Skipworth.
Oh, sorry, I just hadn't turned it off.
Thank you.
A procedural piece, please?
Yes, but I'll take Councillor Sholem. She hasn't spoken yet. Thank you.
A question first, Your Worship. I'm interested to understand whether any of the neighbours have been consulted or talked to regarding the pool's future. I'm also interested in the question around the grandstands. I don't feel I can vote at this point until I understand that, so I'm wondering whether or not we've got that information yet.
Mr Thu, we have that information.
Through you, Your Worship. So the feedback I've had is the last visual assessment of the grandstand. We haven't done a detailed structural assessment due to the work that was going on or proposed at that stage for the pool. That last visual inspection noted minor concrete repairs that were on hold, so nothing materially substantial. However, the grandstand could stay, in our view, as long as the fence remained, because else it becomes a direct access to climb over the fence into the boundary of the neighbouring properties, and there are some fall hazards there. So the fence would have to stay if the grandstand wasn't pulled down as part of the activity to demolition.
Thank you. Councillor Shom, do you have a further question or comment?
If I could just hear from officers regarding the question around neighbours, if that's possible.
Yeah, thank you. So this would be part of the next steps, obviously, the decision now, and then following on to engage around particularly where that.
I can't hear you. Could you just speak into the mic?
Sorry, Your Worship. Yes, so that would be part of the next steps to engage with the local residents, particularly those that have the grandstand as a boundary of their property.
So we have spoken to the neighbours?
No. That would be part of the next step following this.
Okay, next steps. Thank you. Councillor Sholem?
Your Worship, thank you for that additional information. I have heard from neighbours. I live in the area, and they are worried about that complex being left empty and unused because of the antisocial behaviour that can take place. It is my view that this council should not be kicking any decisions down the road. This is not a can to be kicked, and simply leaving it with no action again is doing just that, and it costs to the ratepayer of $17,000 per year. With that in mind, my hope is that at least for some people around the table, if we were to remove the demolition of the grandstand from the recommendations, that might see us actually taking action rather than being inactive. So I would like to move an amendment, Your Worship, to B, which would be simply to strike out "and the grandstand" from the recommendations.
Thank you, Councillor Sholem. Do I have a seconder for the amendment?
Proceed.
Councillor Butter. Councillor Watkins has seconded the amendment. We'll deal with the amendment. Oh, Councillor Nixon, you've spoken.
The question I asked earlier included what is the savings from not demolishing the grandstand? That hasn't been answered.
Nixon couldn't hear.
So not removing, we've had 3 quotations for demolition. 2 of the quotations are generic in what they come back with, and they encompass demolishing the grandstand as part of that. Just going through them just now, there is one that itemises it out at $42,000 plus GST. $42,000. Yeah.
$2,000. I'm going to just ask the team to bring the amendment up first. Councillor Kerr?
Your Worship, I think it is really important that we specifically deal with the grandstand in the recommendations. So rather than just exclude the grandstand from the recommendations, I think it should be really clear that in recommendation B, when it talks about the removal of the pool infrastructure, I think it needs to clearly say excluding the grandstand. Okay, rather than just not mentioning the grandstand, and I would support the changes that the grandstand demolition is excluded.
I'll just check with the mover of the amendment. You're saying that you'd like to have the amendment included in the recommendation to say and exclude the grandstand. Is that correct?
My understanding of the amendment was that...
Let's not complicate the issue.
The grandstand was struck out. I actually want the words in the recommendations that are clear, saying that the grandstand is excluded from demolition.
Yes.
I don't just want it
Let
silent.
me go back to the amendment, to the mover of the amendment, and see if she agrees with that.
Your Worship, to simplify things, I wonder whether or not the original mover and seconder of the motion would accept what Councillor Green has suggested, in which case there is no amendment to deal with. That would just become the substantive motion.
Thank you. The mover and the seconder have agreed with that. Thank you, councillor Sholem. Mr Thu.
Through you, Your Worship, I just want to build a point of clarification, just a little bit more depth to Tom's earlier answer around the cost of demolition. So that one tenderer who did break it down and indicated $40,000 for the grandstand, that price is almost double the lower two tenders. So it will be a margin, but it may not be that portion of the lower tender prices. So there is a cost gain, but it may not be to that full extent, just wanted to clarify.
Okay, so is everyone clear on that? There will be a cost gain, but we don't know the exact number yet. Thank you. Councillor Butto.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a question. If the grandstand remains, and you've mentioned that the fence may need to remain as well, that of course probably removes some fencing costs from the entire equation. But there is also a question about the purpose of this is to return it as a part of Frimley Park that's accessible, and you're leaving the fence there. So I'm struggling to see the difference a little bit between demolishing the pools, leaving the fence up, and mothballing it.
Thank you. Thanks, Tom.
So, thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, so part of the recommendation was to bring through the ROI, obviously not gaining any interest. Part of the recommended demolition was to bring it back to more of a blank canvas, so it might be a more appealing proposition. Obviously, the removal of the pool infrastructure is providing that. The hope is that if we were to go out with another ROI, having done that, it might be a bit more appealing for a new incumbent.
Thank you. I'd just like to speak in support of the recommendations. I also have been part of this journey for a very long time and was at council when it was decided that this operation had only a limited life because it was going to cost the ratepayers so much. 10 years was a limited life, and we're well exceeded that now. The other day, Councillor Hickey and I were sitting in our beautiful Flaxmere Park. The Flaxmere Park had so many young people playing basketball, volleyball, and all sorts of activity. I want to thank the officers for trying to find suitable uses for this area, and while we haven't got the answers right now, there is huge opportunity in the future. And I think of volleyball and how many times we are asked to find space for volleyball. I'm thinking of basketball and I'm thinking about tennis. There are so many opportunities for clubs in the future with a green space to be able to look at opportunities for future recreation for the community of Frimley, which is, as we know, growing rapidly. So I am very in support of the recommendations. I think there will be an amazing use for this space in the future. I know there's so many sporting codes that are looking for land, looking for opportunities. Those quality changing rooms that have been kept up to speed and up to spec, it's great that it's considered to leave them there because a club could move in when the grass goes down next year. So I am very, very much in support of not kicking the can down the road, not leaving this in mothballs, and not looking at, and I think the opportunity for the grandstand to be left there for people to watch the games will be fabulous. So I've got no issue with the grandstand. So that is that's my opinion today.
So procedurally, Your Worship, and councillors, so this is the substantive motion, no amendment, with the agreement of the mover and seconder of the amendment as being very clear. This is the substantive motion that's on the table, which takes the grandstand out of the demolition.
It's no longer silent.
So I'll just give everyone a minute to have a look at those recommendations. Councillor Corbyn.
Thank you, Your Worship. So what exactly is being demolished? Not what's being
The pool and not the grandstand.
But just the pool.
That's right.
Being demolished, and the pumps, etc., being sold.
That's right. Can everybody just see the change there? Could you just read that part that's got that change in it, Craig, please? That's it. Recommendation B. I just can't see it very well. accept the grandstand and the areas return to grass.
Maybe brackets around the
Yeah.
exit the grandstand, Michael, as a...
That the council approves the decommissioning of the works at the Frimley Pool Complex, including the removal of the pool infrastructure, except the grandstand and the areas return to grass. Okay, so that's the change to the recommendations. Does the mover and seconder comfortable with those changes?
Yes, Your Worship.
Thank you. Right, I've had many speakers for and against the substantive motion, so I'm going to put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Show of hands, please. And those against? So the motion is, substantive motion is carried, and thank you. And that means that the decommissioning will commence, excluding the grandstand and the changing rooms. Thank you, everyone, for the good debate.
Please record my motion against, thanks. Please record it.
Certainly, we're happy to record all those motions against. Thank you. Right, we're on to item now. Plan change 5 to be operative. This is very exciting. Welcome, Anna Summerfield. And Megan, this is work that has been going on with the council for about 3 years, maybe longer. Very excited about this coming, and I'm sure you are too.
Your Worship, whilst this is very much at the tail end of a long process in making Plan Change 5 operative, just wanted to present a few slides because I think it's important to put it into the much broader sort of context of what it represents, which at a high level is this district's commitment to protecting our productive soils, looking to do good quality intensification of our existing urban areas with good design standards and controls. And obviously we've had to, as part of doing that, if you can recall the review of the medium density housing strategy, we also had to deal with some quite big infrastructure constraints, and hence also the big investments that are being made in a once in a generational new piece of infrastructure for wastewater. So that's the broad context in which Plan Change 5 sits, but I'd just like to invite Megan and Anna just to work through just a few slides that speak to that.
Okay. So my name's Anna Summerfield and I've been the project leader for Plan Change 5, and Megan Gaffney from the Growth and Development team, she has been on this process with me every step of the way, so that's why she's here to present as well. So this is a real milestone in this the process of this plan change and making it operative. And it's a really exciting milestone because it's going to provide the opportunity to create a new urban character in these inner city suburbs around our CBD and town centres in Havelock North and Flaxmere. And it creates the opportunity for more affordable housing, so smaller house sites and different housing typologies that suit different lifestyles and different household types and makeups. And it's been a long journey. It really all started back in 2008, 2009 when we had the Hastings Urban Issues workshops, and from there, there was this idea to grow up and not out, to protect our soils. From there, that flowed into the HPUD strategy, which sought a compact settlement pattern. From there was the medium density housing strategy that Council adopted in 2014, and that identified the best locations for medium density to occur. And from there, the district plan review in 2015, that identified our city living zones and our CRD provisions. And at that time, around 2020, we decided to develop a design guide for medium density because it was a housing typology that you know, our community and developers in the region weren't necessarily doing a lot of. So we wanted to ensure that the quality of these developments was really high. And so we developed this guide, and that has been really well received. It's been taken on by Gisborne District and Napier City, and we've had some really good feedback, both from developers, the community and councillors using the guide. In 2022, the medium density housing strategy was reviewed, and that review identified that we needed more land for medium density housing, and we also needed a better planning framework that was more enabling and made it easier to do this type of development. And that aligned with the government's directives in terms of the NPSUD and taking away barriers to development. And so all of that informed the development of Plan Change 5. And so Plan Change 5, what does it deliver? So it really delivers on Council's strategic direction and our sustainability goals. It supports the development of well-functioning urban environments, you know, locating more housing close to services and amenities and transport routes. It enables, as I said before, smaller house sizes, smaller house sites and house sizes and different topologies, which make it more affordable. Because not everyone wants to live on a big quarter-acre section with all the maintenance requirements of big houses and lots of land. Yeah. So, yeah, Megan might take over now and talk about the design guide. But also, you know, we've supported this growth with infrastructure as well.
Yeah.
And that's been a really important part of the plan change. And it's, you know, we've worked across council to develop the provisions.
Yeah. Thank you. So through Plan Change 5, we received a lot of submissions, I think over 150 submissions, and some of the submissions were seeking that we enabled medium density housing everywhere throughout the whole of Hastings. And obviously there was people, you know, wanting to advance that, but then there was the community who were saying, no, we need to know where this is going, where it's not going. So we had to deal with that, trying to balance that out. But part of that decision making was around infrastructure, because we knew that we couldn't be rolling out infrastructure throughout the entirety of the Hastings urban area. So working with our infrastructure team helped to form up the preferred areas in and around our commercial centres in Havelock, Hastings and Flaxmere. So, yeah, the medium density design framework was refined through the process as well. It still continues to be a really well used guidance for developers who, I guess, they like to know that council has a vision for what it's seeking, and it helps the planners, everybody, to give a steer on what we should be expecting from our housing.
Just before we leave that slide, just because I think it's an important point, we are spending $36.3 million on new infrastructure that creates the network capacity for this intensification. $18.5 million of that cost has been provided by government as a grant through the Infrastructure Acceleration Fund.
Thank you. So we're just going to run through a few examples of some applications. Some have been granted and some that are in with council at the moment as a result of Plan Change 5. So I don't know whether, Anna, you want to talk about that?
So one on the left, I don't know, depends where you're looking at. Yeah, the top left is 78 Tamata Road. So that is in the process at the moment for consideration for resource consent. So that is 7 units, 2-bedroom units, really high quality design and materials. Yeah, great landscaping. So it's just making sure all of those elements come together to create a really great product and a great outcome for the community as well. It's really close to Havelock Park, the Havelock North Village Centre, shops and services. It's on a main road, bus stops are just down the road, so really great location. The top right is also in the, for resource consent at the moment. That's on Campbell Street, next to the school and the precinct, Joel Road, sort of precinct area where you've got restaurants and offices, etc. And then the middle at the bottom is a Miller Street development in Hastings. So that is across the road from New World Supermarket. It is an 8-unit, single-storey, single-bedroom development. The other two either side of that are existing developments in Havelock North. Well, that's Havelock Road, isn't it?
Yeah, Havelock Road, yeah.
Yeah, and the other one is the Wool Shed Apartments on Tomato Road, which has been there for quite some time.
So, do you want me to take
Yeah,
this
yeah,
one? So really this is leading into the next item on the agenda with Paige Gear, who will be taking up the local area plans. Local area plans were one of the recommendations that came out of the medium density strategy review in 2022. They're a way of bringing our medium density housing to life in a real way to engage with the community as that forms up. But I will leave Paige to talk to you about that as it goes forward.
So you're happy to take questions on paper?
Great, thank you very much. Any questions or comments, councillors? Councillor Corbyn?
Thank you, Worship. A question to start with. I noticed there were some appeals, and particularly in the general residential zone, removing the need for notification. Is there any instance where notification would be required in the general residential zone?
Through you, Your Worship. So yes, so that mandatory notification rule that we removed as part of the appeal related to development proposals that exceeded the density of that zone. And so now they still may be notified. It's just that there will be an assessment undertaken at the time of resource consent, and that's the normal process when a resource consent comes in. The consent planners assess the development in terms of the level of the effects and decide, you know, who might be affected, whether the effects are greater than minor, and if they're greater than minor, then notification may be required.
So does that mean there's no specific section size which would require notification? It'll be up to the consenting officer to make a decision as to whether there were adverse effects from a smaller section size?
Yes, so through you, Your Worship. The section size in the general residential zone is still 350 square metres. That is the minimum section size. So if you go lower than that, the activity status changes and it's a higher activity status. So if you're subdividing, it's a non-complying activity status, which is one of the highest statuses. So it's quite a lot of assessment and evaluation to go through. So there's still that requirement.
Thank you.
Councillor Butto.
Oh, thank you, Your Worship. If you would take a mover, I'm very happy to move the recommendations, I think.
Thank you, Councillor Butto.
Thank you, Worship. I'd be very happy to second.
Thank you.
If I may speak to that.
I'll ask the mover to speak first on to the recommendation. Thank you.
I think it's been a long process. It's the right next step if we're serious about seeing fertile land protected while still achieving our housing goals, and look forward to seeing it notified.
Councillor Butto. Councillor Scholler.
Serious about soils, he stole it. But actually, the other thing that I'd like to note is that often in our community, when we're talking about medium density, there is confusion around what that means, and people do picture kind of order housing in a specific outline. What I'm really heartened to see through this whole process is our medium density design framework, which is very explicit around this is high quality, great housing with great designs. I think this is a wonderful opportunity for first home buyers, seniors trying to downsize professional families who don't have time to manage a big quarter-acre section. This is the way of the future, so we protect our soils. I'm very supportive.
Thank you, Councillor Sholem. Councillor Watkins, I can't believe that you're not having a word on this Plan Change 5. Come on, you know, this taken a long time and, you know, this is very important for us. Make sure we get people higher, living higher and not all sprawled out on green fields.
Your Worship, I'm just waiting for you to take the vote.
Can I thank the officers for this enormous piece of work, the community engagement, the community awareness, the continuous community awareness. We can be very proud as a council that we are considering housing for our people that isn't going to impact on our fertile soils. Thank you for this. The design guide is absolutely imperative how we move forward. We want to see the quality of dwellings that you've highlighted up there. We want to make sure that all of our whānau have a place to live and our towns and cities look amazing. So thank you for the enormous amount of work. I have a mover and a seconder. Councillor Butto, Councillor Sholem second. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any against? Thank you. That's carried. Well done, team. Welcome to item 9, Page Gear, and this is the local area plans, as we've heard, came out of the medium density strategy. Welcome to Page. Item 9, page 35, if you have a hard copy. Paige, did you want to speak to the paper?
I will quickly, thank you, Your Worship.
Yes.
So I'll take the report as read, but following on from the adoption of Plan Change 5, I'll just make a note that the local area plans program enables medium density developments to be planned and supported at a neighbourhood level, making sure that there's the appropriate infrastructure to support that. I'll also make a note that in the report there's reference to where the local area plans program fits within the policy context, and so it's directed by high-level strategies. The government policy statement on housing and urban development is currently out for consultation, and officers are preparing a submission, so just keep a note that we'll be reaching out for councillor input on that as well. But happy to take any questions on the report.
Wonderful, thank you very much, Paige. Another great piece of work. Any questions or comments, councillors? Councillor Sholem.
Thank you, Worship. Just one question from me under the summary of community feedback under housing and intensification, which is 4.17 if you're trying to find it. You noted that residents, 71%, disagreed that medium density housing can improve livability in their community. Is there any follow-up or further education with the community? Because again, I think it's that snapshot view of it's a specific type of housing.
Yeah, through you, Your Worship. So the next phase, which is the implementation phase, we'll be looking at what tools and mechanisms we can use to kind of educate the community on what medium density housing is, maybe make changes to the design guide that currently is to support medium density housing more appropriately, and we're planning some further community engagement following the implementation plan development, making sure that the community understands what the plan means and how it's going to work for them in practice.
Thank you. Councillor Nixon.
Yeah, I was on the same item, actually, and I wondered what effect the 71% that didn't agree with our proposal had in the final analysis. Did it have any effect, or did we just ignore it?
Through you, Your Worship. We haven't ignored the feedback. Part of it was kind of acknowledging that initial feedback and then going through a kind of perceptions survey with the community to understand more in depth on why they had that view and how we can use that to inform the implementation plan, so that we're making sure that those views are heard and can come up with solutions that might support or shift that mindset in the future as development occurs.
Can I just ask a supplementary question? How many people are we talking about? Because 71% of not very many is not very many.
Yeah, through you, Your Worship. So in the survey that went out, there were, I think, off the top of my head, 921 responses, and that was across the Hastings district, primarily within those 4 Hastings local areas.
Next page. Councillor Sholem.
Thank you, Worship. If you will allow me, I'd actually like to move the recommendations. this is an incredibly important piece of work that follows on from Plan Change 5. It empowers our community to participate in making sure their neighbourhoods are livable in a medium density context. And it also, again, is about protecting our soils through all this work. So I'd just like to commend the officers on the work they've done and the fact that they will be following up further from this. And I look forward to stage 2.
Councillor Sholem. Thank you, Councillor Kerr. Further speakers? Councillor Barrow, Councillor Montepito Hendry? No? All your questions been answered?
Thank you, through your worship. Yeah, a couple words. Thank you. Really impressed with the amount of feedback that you got back. Super stoked to see that 64% were familiar with the blue and green infrastructure, which I really, really love. So thank you so much. Thank you for $36.3 million being spent in our last slide on stormwater mitigation and wastewater mitigation. Just really excited to see what happens further down the line, down the rivers to the sea. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Barrow.
Thank you, Your Worship. No, I was just going to speak in support. I think this is, look, a lot of the anxiety that people have around medium density is a worry about their amenity, and they're seeing a decrease in amenity from having more people living in the area or different types of housing. And I think this is a really good way of addressing that concern and working proactively with that community to see better outcomes for them because of it.
Thank you, Councillor Barrow. Councillor Fowler.
Yes, thank you, Worship. I think the whole process has been well executed, and what I like about it too, dividing it up as each unique LAP, the individuality of them has been recognised and will remain so under the proposal. So support.
Thank you, Councillor Fowler. No further speakers? I'll put those recommendations. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any against? Thank you, that's carried. Thank you very much, Paige, for the great work. Now I invite Tiffany Gray, item 10. This is the, and Anna Summerfield, you're coming back?
Yes, Sandra, did you note, have you deliberately missed item 8?
I did. Item 8. Regan, you're waiting patiently. I'll call you now. Sorry, item 8. Should stick to my list and not my book.
Thank you, Worship.
This is the Risk Management Policy and Framework and Annual Review, item 8.
Good afternoon. So the paper can be taken as read. It's presentation of the annual review of the risk framework for council. This has been reviewed by the Risk and Assurance Committee, discussed and recommended for adoption. So happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Councillors, any questions on this item? Councillor Montepito Hendry.
Thank you, through your worship. I loved it. I always love anything to do with risk because I'm so risk adverse, Regan. So I just had it brought to my attention that not everyone knows how to read an RAM and how that works. So I would absolutely love, please, in the next one, can you please just have it, this is how you follow it? Because I took it for granted that I knew how to read it, but not everybody does and not all of the public will. Thank you.
Good point. Well said. Thank you. So you'd like to move the recommendations, Councillor Montepito Hendry? Yes.
I actually will.
Thank you. And Councillor Nixon, you wish to second the motion? Okay. Any further speakers on this paper? No. I'll put those recommendations. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any against? That is carried. Thank you. Now we move on to item 10, the State of the Nation. Welcome, Tiffany and Anna. State of the Nation. Oh, God, I think I'll go home and pack up. Welcome to you both. So this State of Environment Report for 2020-2024, perhaps you could just outline to the councillors the reasons why we do the State of Environmental Report. That would be really helpful, and how it's used, how both the organisation uses it and the wider community. Thank you.
Good afternoon all. So we do the State of the Environment Report because it is a legislative requirement under Section 35 of the RMA. We also do it because it can help inform policy at a high level. It can help inform our district plan reviews. And that's primarily the use of it in the organisation.
Tiffany? Anna, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, just that it is a really good tool to understand trends over time. So it looks back over the last 5 years and looks at a range of different things, land use, it looks at water services, transport, hazards. So it has quite a wide-reaching scope. And as Tiffany said, it's really essential in terms of identifying trends that then we can look in terms of our district plan review and delve deeper into those so that we can understand how the rules in our district plan relate to those trends and whether they need to be updated or changed in any way. So it is a really important, I guess, flag or trigger for us to look more deeper into some of these trends that are coming out of this report. Thank you.
Anna, you might just like to advise us the standout trends that you've seen over the 5 years from the previous report to this one, or Tiffany.
Yeah. So the report is framed in a way that focuses on the trends that we saw maybe had a worsening or declining trajectory. So probably the standout ones is around sustainable land use. That was the number of building consents for new dwellings in zone categories, so mostly around those rural zones. So there was a little bit of a downturn in building consents in the rural residential zones compared to your rural zone or your productive rural zone. So that's something that we're quite interested in looking at further. Yes, and also in terms of recycling, so there was a little bit of a declining trend in the amount of waste received in the recycling stream. So Ange, who you heard from earlier, she provided some commentary around that, and she is of the opinion that this is because of changes in packaging. So more companies are using cardboard now, and that doesn't necessarily make it to recycling. And also, it's not uncommon for hard economic times to affect recycling too. And then there were also some interesting observations from the survey that we conducted as part of that. So there is a survey there that goes to a citizens panel, and one of the interesting ones is around the perception of Heretaunga Hastings as a safe place to live. So there had been a decrease in people that agreed with that statement. And in the survey, we did ask for additional comments around how people answered, and for those answers, it was around an increase in unemployment contributed to those feelings of unsafety, radical politics as well. Those are some of the standout ones for me. Otherwise, also, there was an increase in archaeological authorities sought as well, which is also interesting because it can be perceived that there is an increasing amount of development that may be modifying or destroying archaeological sites. But on the flip side, it can also indicate that there's an increasing awareness of the sensitivity of these sites and that people are willing to monitor their activity on the site. So those are some of the standout trends for me.
Thank you. That's very helpful. Thank you. Councillor Corbyn.
Thank you, Your Worship. I think this report's really valuable and the trends over time are really important. My question is, what is going to be done with the information? You mentioned productive sustainability, and 4.4, an indicator that's showing a worsening trend is dwellings in the productive land. Is that we might look at that, or are we going to look at that? The regulatory framework around that.
I think through you, Your Worship, I mean this, I think to Anna's point, shapes some of the policy work. And I think for, the new council, how you think about your leadership of planning and bylaws in terms of shaping the forward work program, these sorts of trends should help shape the priorities for the council around where it wants to focus its, policy and regulatory settings.
Thank you, Chief. Councillor Dixon.
Thank you, Worship. Just looking at 3.3, the Hawke's Bay Regional Council is required to also produce a State of Environment report. Have they produced theirs yet?
Yes, they release theirs on a 3-yearly basis, and they have just recently released theirs.
Thank you. And on 4.1, the safe place to live, that graph, we can actually see some worsening stats. So what action are we liable to take to improve those?
So that comes back to the policy work that the Chief has just explained, is that correct? Yes, so looking at the stats and realising what the next work streams need to be.
It's a downward slide, unfortunately. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Nixon?
Yes, thank you, Worship. Just 4.4, and I'll just read it out so everybody knows what I'm talking about. The indicator is showing a worsening trend is the increased proportion of new dwellings granted in the rural and plains production zone with concurrent decrease in the proportion of new dwellings on rural residential zones. I wasn't sure if I understood that correctly. Isn't if you look at the graphs on there, I'm not sure if I got this right, the rural residential zone has gone from 11 to 6, which is a significant decrease, and the rural zone has gone from, plains zone, gone from 10.1 to 13.1. That's a net reduction, isn't it? Which one's an increase?
So it's an increase in the production zones, in the rural production. The plain production zone shows an increase in new dwellings in that zone.
2%.
So it's really just 2%. Confined to the production zone, not the, because to me the two figures almost cancel out.
Right. So it's looked at individually in each of those zones. The change.
So the comment is just about one that's combined.
Yes.
Okay,
correct.
thank you. I understand.
Sorry.
I'm going to ask another question.
Yes, Councillor Nixon.
Further on, where we talk about safety, I found it a bit, if I've read this right, it sounded a bit alarming that the proportion of people that think Hastings District is a safe place to live has actually worsened in 24. I just wondered, how's that come about? Do we have specific policies to address that? Or where are we going?
I'd ask the Chief Executive to answer that. How much we spend currently on safety and security.
Yeah, thank you, Worship. Obviously this is a state of the environment. It's macro. There are a lot of factors at play, as you'll know. The council plays a pretty active role in the space, spends $3 million a year on, a network of 400 CCTV cameras, employs City Assist to support city safety. But these, again, are the trends in our community. We use this to, what can we directly do in our role? What are the things that as a council and through the mayor as the civic leader in terms of trying to advocate for on behalf of our community? It's a pretty big debates going on now around public law and order. Do we have enough police, government making those sorts of commitments? So, the really important thing about the report that I guess just to try and reinforce, this is a, periodic evidence-based, what are the trends that we're seeing in our environment that's really important to, inform, I guess, our direct responsibilities, the things that we can do around policy settings and the things that we need to be thinking about in terms of, our role in terms of advocacy, working in partnership with others to address some of those trends.
Can I ask a supplementary question and perhaps mix it in with a comment? because I found that quite alarming, because if you look at the trend, it's sort of going down, you know, in each of the periods that are indicated on these graphs. Are we going to, I mean, new term coming up, but is council going to hear an analysis of that and some proposals on how we might improve those figures? Because I think it's quite alarming.
We haven't got Ms Dinwoody here today, who looks after the Safer Hastings Coalition and all of the Safer Hastings projects, unfortunately. But there are a huge amount of projects. I think what we'll do, Councillor Nixon, is bring back what we are doing and what future councils could look at in terms of, you know, looking at a safer. But if you look at 4.2 and the reasons, 4.12, and if you compare other councils also on this matter around Aotearoa New Zealand, you know, this is a general feeling, and as the government is recognising this with recruiting their numbers for increased policing, these are difficult and challenging times, particularly with our homelessness and our most vulnerable and unemployment. And when you have those challenging economic times, you do see a rise in crime. Not to say that there's not more that we can do, and I'll ask Ms Dinwoody on what her team, through neighbourhood support, through Safer Hastings, and I don't know, Councillor Apatu, would you like to add anything, because you're right amongst all of this?
Not really, Your Worship, but just to say that there is a lot of work being done, but you're right, if you look at those absolute areas, it is a national problem, and I was particularly interested in the sense of increased gang presence when actually we've removed gang patches, so I wasn't sure, there's a story behind that, I guess, and I'm quite interested to hear what that story might entail. I know it's till 24, and perhaps some of it is pre-gang patch removal, but I'm interested.
Could I just ask another quick question? In future, with this report, could we just have a little more depth on that one? I think it would be, I might not be here.
So I'll take that as an action, Councillor Nixon.
Thank
you. We'll bring that back to Council. Thank you.
Yeah, and I could, Your Worship, just make the obvious point heading into a new triennium. You know, this is all useful contextual information on which, you know, a new council, in terms of scanning the environment and thinking about their role and their priorities, will make a bunch of choices. I'll also make just the obvious observation that depending on how you potentially interpret the proposed legislation around what councils should see as core and non-core, that we would probably should not be spending $3 million a year on CCTV and City Assist. Would have a view that this really has got nothing to do with local government. So that is all going to be a context for a new council, again, to take this in a broader environment scan, to think about, as you always do, what are the trends or priorities that are most important to the people that live in Hastings that you might apply your leadership and role and resources to.
Thank you very much. Councillor Sholom.
Your Worship, I'd like to make a complaint about the Chief Executive, who just stole everything I was about to say. I would like to say I'm really proud of this council for investing in something that is not considered core business, which is the safety of our people through CCTV and City Assist. And we are the envy of a number of places throughout the country because we've got on and done that. I am really happy to move the recommendations. I think this has been really great to have, and I think it's really excellent information for the incoming council to have. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sholom. And Councillor Kerr.
I'm happy to second this, and the piece that I really like is the part of the recommendation that whereas the Chief Executive consider any matters that that are highlighted in this report. So happy to second.
Councillor Kerr, any further comments or questions on this report? I'll put those recommendations. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any against? Thank you. That's carried. Thank you, Tiffany. Thank you, Anna, for that big piece of work. Very much appreciated. Now we move on to the policy and practices in relation to control of dogs for 1st of July 2024 to 30th of June 2025. John Payne, thank you.
team leader.
Team leader.
Good afternoon, councillors.
Good afternoon, John.
I'd like to take the opportunity to introduce our team leader for animal control, and she hasn't come here before, but he's actually been running the ship for over 6 months now, which is Shane Breville, ex-police, but we won't hold that against him. Thank you, Your Worship. I take it that the report's been read, and happy to take any questions. I guess the only one thing I wanted to point out was, although you might get some fluctuations in the complaint types, if you look at the bottom line, it's amazing how consistent it is. I added up the last 5 years and then divided it by 5, and it came to 2,585, and last year we got 2,586. So it's pretty consistent. And I think to put that in perspective, even though the dog numbers over the last couple of years have been going down and the complaints have been staying the same, a lot of the contributors to the complaints are unregistered dogs. So you kind of end up with 3 different categories. You get the registered dogs, you get the known unregistered dogs. They're generally dogs that haven't been re-registered, but then you also have another whole category of unknown dogs that are out there in the community. And you wouldn't believe how high the percentage is of how much those contribute to the negatives in dog control. In fact, one time we did a survey and it was 46% of the dogs impounded were unknown, unregistered dogs, and 32% of all the reported dog attacks were unknown, unregistered dogs. So they feature quite high. And there was just one other thing I wanted to point out. This council is the only one that I'm aware of. In our policy, we have a policy on that we don't support the tethering of dogs as a permanent means of restraining them. And we did that deliberately, we didn't have a mandate to be able to make a bylaw to enforce it because it wasn't in the legislation. But you'll be pleased to know that under the Animal Welfare Act, it's going to be empowered in the legislation and enforced by the SPCA, so under the Welfare Act, and that comes into effect on the 25th of September. So it's going to be an offence to keep a dog as a permanent means of restraining it by chain, which is a good thing.
Thank you very much, John. Right, questions on the report? Councillor Nixon.
Yeah, me again. I heard some figures for Auckland the other day. It makes us look like we're doing fabulously well, so I can only assume we are. And the only comment I tend to get a lot of, and I've been to see you a few times, John, is barking dogs, which drive people mad. I just wondered, are there any other options that we could use to achieve a better outcome? Often they're constrained and all that, and that's a problem.
Yes, through your worship. Barking dogs is an interesting one because a barking dog is generally a restrained dog, so sometimes they protest after not having been restrained. It's a really tricky one, but barking's a natural behaviour and dogs are allowed to display patterns of natural behaviour. It's when the barking becomes loud and persistent, which is not natural behaviour, there's generally an underlying problem. So our function is to try and identify what that underlying problem is and work with the owner to get a resolution. Unfortunately, sometimes when we do have a problem with it, it's that the owner doesn't want to cooperate. They don't accept that their dog's causing a nuisance. So it is quite a complex complaint type to work through, and we deal with over 500 every year. So it takes a lot of work, and the officers meet with the complainant, they meet with the offender, and they try and get a resolution that suits the whole community. But it is a really complex issue to work through.
Councillor Kerr.
Thank you. John, I'm not sure how many years ago we we employed you here to change the outcomes at the time. I'm really interested to understand what the current culture is with regard to badly behaved dogs, badly behaved humans, and how we work to get the best outcome, as opposed to lock up the dog. and fine the owner.
Thank you, through your worship. I guess at the end of the day, it's a complex issue, and we as much as we possibly can, we look at trying to have systems that will change behaviour rather than just fix the problem. And I think that was the issue when I first came here. That if you have a total enforcement focus, it's a little bit meathead, and it's getting people to modify their behaviour right there and then. Like, for example, and one that's always quite contentious, is an unregistered dog. Is the objective to get dogs registered? That's a short-term fix. Or is the objective to try and get people to change their behaviour and not keep unregistered dogs? And a real classic example was a desexing campaign that was done in Hawaii back in 2001. They did a survey of the population and found that a certain percentage, it wasn't just dogs, a certain percentage of pets were desexed, and desexing is a really good thing for an animal anyway. Then they put on a free desexing campaign, and they desexed 187,000 animals, which is really good for those animals. But then 10 years later, they did another survey, and they found the same percentage of of animals were desexed. So in effect, they may have fixed the problem right then, but perhaps they should have invested that money in changing people's behaviour so that they understood the best thing to do. And that's what we do to focus on everything. It's not about finding the penalty that fits the crime. It's about working with the people so that they understand why it happened and how they can prevent it from happening again. We do get a bit of resistance sometimes, but we try to work with that.
Thank you very much, John.
Your worship, just once again like to acknowledge, John, the attitude change that you brought into our organisation, and I can still hear the passion in your voice. And Shane, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Apatu?
Thank you, Worship. My query was just that, about the desexing of animals, which wasn't in the report. So thank you for your comment. It now makes sense. I can see the strategy you're taking, because I was going to ask, do we subsidise the neutering of dogs at any stage? Is that something our council has a policy on, or an approach, or do we, campaigns, but you did explain the approach that we have, but do we ever have a month of, campaigning to neuter dogs or subsidise that to happen in our community?
Thank you, Your Worship. We do have education material, and we do sometimes, if a dog's a repeat offender in terms of roaming, offer them that if they get their dog neutered, they can get their dog out of the pound for free. So I think to try and make people understand that probably the best thing you can do for your dog is to get it desexed. It's less susceptible to disease, it fits into society better, and it lives longer. So it's about getting that psyche changed.
Thank you. Councillor Teo Skipworth.
I think the question might have already been answered, but in the previous question, but just in regards to impounding, it's dropped by nearly 200. Is it along the lines that you've just sort of explained to Councillor Apatu? Why the numbers have decreased in a year by 200? Yeah. Is it similar to those lines?
It is similar, but there has been a drop in the number of dogs anyway, and I think as well, when things start getting a little bit tight, like budgets and things like that, people don't want to take the risk of letting their dogs out and getting impounded and having to pay a fee or getting an infringement notice. So in some cases, when the things get a bit tighter, people actually get a little bit more compliant.
Okay, great. Supplementary, if I may, Your Worship. Just would be good to have some budget numbers brought to council at some time, just in regards to when you're impounding, euthanizing, what that costs versus, as you said, education. So, yeah, thank you.
That's a great idea.
Happy to move.
Thank you, Councillor Kerr. Thank you, Councillor Butto. Second. Any further comments? I'll put those recommendations. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any against? Thank you. That's carried. Thank you very much, team, and welcome, Shane. Great to have you on board with us, and thanks for the wonderful work. Right, now we move on to the list member of the Hastings District Licensing Committee for the election period.
Happy to move, Your Worship.
Oh, thank you. Great.
Firstly, Your Worship, can I please declare a conflict of interest?
Yes,
The most
certainly.
important
And
piece.
so is Councillor Montepito Hendry.
And me.
And so has Councillor Corbyn, and Councillor Watkins has seconded the motion. So moved by Councillor Dixon, seconded by Councillor Watkins. Any further questions on this paper? Councillor
No,
Skipworth?
I won't ask. It was a bit. I was going to say, is it for those that drink? Are they the ones that are declaring?
Oh, right. Okay, then I'll put that recommendation. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Any against? Thank you. That's carried. Thank you very much, Louise. That was
watching
too easy, wasn't it? All right, now we move. There's on item 13. There's no minor items, and item 14 is the Matariki, and 14A, 14B is the Matariki Governance Group, and Nigel will address us with Friday's paper from Matariki. This will be a permanent item straight after or before for council to understand what's happening with the Matariki Governance Group from a regional level. Thank you, Nigel.
And if I can, Your Worship, just procedurally, obviously because it is a late supplementary agenda paper, and the reasons are because the meeting took place on Friday, we thought it was important that the paper and an overview was tabled quickly for the council. So if you...
Happy to move.
Yeah.
Have a seconder, please. Councillor Sholham, all those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any against? Thank you. The paper is accepted.
Thank you, Your Worship. If I just draw probably the key points out of this that are in the covering paper, obviously substantive updates from READER and the RRA, but the critical work that's been going on between the entities, as was tasked by the Matariki Governance Group, is to actually try and arrive at a small handful of regional priorities. The work hasn't started from scratch. It's drawn off a lot of previous work that was done, the recovery reports, and where it's kind of landed as three broad priorities: infrastructure for productive growth, economic and business growth, and supporting whānau wellbeing. And you'll be pleased, Councillor Corbyn, with the recommendation that what needs to underpin this going forward is a Hawke's Bay spatial plan that actually plans for Hawke's Bay in a broad context. So those are the four sort of priorities that have emerged from the work, and we thought it was really important to table it here because clearly we've got an election in October. This work is due to come back to Matariki Governance for decision making in November, and whilst we will be looking to get new councillors briefed fairly quickly, thought it was important that the current council had a good line of sight of this work. But with that, Your Worship, happy to take any questions.
And it's wonderful, though, as Councillor Corbyn knows, this conversation on regional spatial planning has gone on for some time. Cyclone certainly got in the way of this work done because all councils have been hands to the deck to recover and recovery and rebuild program. So to start looking and planning for the future, it's very, very exciting to see this work going to happen as a regional priority, and what that looks like will come back to the new council and the new triennium. Councillor Teo Skipworth.
Thank you, Worship. I just wanted clarification on the report about the commissioned research done by READER for NZEIR on the economic and social benefit. Was that the same paper commissioned with Te Hei Taki Tumu, or was it a separate one? Because it only mentions READER as the commissioner, not Te Hei Taki Tumu.
I'm not sure. I'd have to follow up and come back to you if that's okay. I'll take as an action.
And just another question, if I may, Worship. Under the priorities of health and wellbeing, it mentions Te Reo as being a priority, but down the paper a bit, it says there's already work being done, so it kind of said it wouldn't be a priority. So just want to know if you're putting it in there as not you, but if it's been mentioned as a priority, but then later watered down by saying there's enough going on, I'm not sure why.
Yeah,
and what they mean by that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep. Good question. I think what it's trying to highlight is tier one is these four big overarching priorities, and then dropping down to it when it gets into the work of the entities, a suggested set of priorities that need to be confirmed and will form the basis in November of decisions that form the letters of expectation that go to these entities. So still to come. So there's a kind of list of tier 2 priorities that are going to have to be worked up, and ultimately will come back for decision that will form the basis for the agreed set of priorities through a letter of expectation.
Sorry, Your Worship, if I may, the reason I mentioned whether the report was co-commissioned is Councillor Heke and I are on Te Hei Takitumu, so whether we need to declare a conflict of interest when if that paper should come to the table. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. Happy to move the recommendations. Thank you. Councillor Butto? Did you happy to second? Okay, any further questions? I'll put those recommendations. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any against? Thank you, that's carried. Right, now we look to recommend to exclude the public for items 16, 17, 18 and 19. And I'll ask Mr Cameron if he could take us through those items and please advise us why these items should be in public excluded part of the agenda. Thank you.
So thank you, through you, Madam Chair. As you said, 4 items recommended for public exclusion. Item 16 contains information that at this time is commercially sensitive business information for council and some external parties, and it's also recommended it's appropriate at this time to protect council's potential negotiation positions. Item 17, same recommended reasons for this time. It's appropriate, what's recommended, it's appropriate that council protects its negotiation position and commercial interests. Item 18 is recommended to protect the personal information of people and consideration of personal curriculum vitae information. Item 19 relates to the the confidential employment matters of the Chief Executive. So it's recommended in respect of those 4 items that it's appropriate at this time to be considered public exclusion for the reasons I've provided.
Thank you, Mr Cameron. Councillor Sholham?
Happy to move.
Thank you. Councillor Harvey, second. Thank you. I'll put those recommendations. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any against? Thank you. That's carried. That concludes our public part of today's agenda. Thank you to our members of the community who may have joined us today. Lovely to have you with us. And there will be another council meeting next week. So we look forward to being back again with you soon. Mā te wā. We'll take a coffee break now. Tea break too. Thank you.